This past week has been possibly the most controversial week I've ever seen in the LEGO community, and it's all surrounding the newly revealed $1,000 LEGO Star Wars Death Star. However, today I want to get to the heart of why this feels like the final nail in the coffin for so many LEGO Star Wars fans, addressing what the problem is, why fans are upset, and how many LEGO ambassadors who received the set early are facing a lot of backlash. So what's up LEGO fans, it's LEGO Man Cam, and to quickly blitz through all of the problems people have with this set, we have the minifigures lacking detail, primarily in the leg department, with C-3PO and the Imperial officers missing boots. This then also includes Han Solo with no boots or leg print, which we did see in Cloud City, as well as Princess Leia missing her printed dress piece. There's then of course the set including over 50 stickers, some of which aren't even color matched properly, and there is then the Death Star just being a slice, not an actual sphere, and kind of like a giant dollhouse, which is not what a lot of people expected. There is then the GWP, which is absolutely terrible, not only being a bad build, but being something that many people say ties the set together, therefore meaning that if you don't buy this set on day 1, 2, or 3, you'll have to pay exuberant amounts online for some really poor TIE fighter. And then of course, last is that this set is $1,000 and does not feel like it's worth that price, which brings me to my first point. That is, the idea of a $1,000 set in general is a really scary thing. This is something that we've been approaching for many years now, with the two $850 Millennium Falcon and the AT-AT being our closest sets so far, which although I don't have, I'm told they're both incredible sets and capture every detail you would want in a near $900 18 plus adult collector LEGO set. However, now that we've crossed this $1,000 threshold, this theoretical line makes it feel like we should be getting something more than just a regular LEGO set, but bigger. This is why it's almost insulting to hear the designer interviews discussing cut corners and limitations with the model, when realistically at $1,000 there should be every bit of care put in. Speaking of these limitations, my next points come from the designer interview held by Brickset with the graphic designer of the model, Maddie O'Neill. There are quite a few quotes that I've taken here that kind of sound insane when you say them out loud. First is that Princess Leia's printed dress piece was excluded from the set because she couldn't lie down in the cell room, would look less natural when swinging across the chasm, and wouldn't fit in the trash compactor. This makes no sense to me because LEGO could just include both the legs and the dress piece. LEGO has included alternate pieces for years. I'm thinking the hair pieces for Ninjago figures or spare legs for characters like Lord Business. LEGO has often stated that they won't include things like waist capes on figures because kids can't figure out how to put them on or take them off, but then they follow this same thought process in an 18 plus set. It's almost like they feel like adults are dumb. Next relates back to the cut corners on some of these minifigures, stating how there had to be limitations made, and how LEGO has seemingly actually wasted a lot of this budget in completely pointless areas. Supposedly Luke and Obi-Wan were all given new prints and updates in this set. Why exactly? I'm not sure. The older ones were just fine. I'm not saying that I dislike getting new figures, but if it had to come down to making compromises, I think this is where the compromises could have been made. They could have used the exact same figures from a few years ago and no one would have really cared. This next one is so much worse though, and this is that apparently LEGO created several new heads for, get this, these stormtroopers. This is completely hilarious to me that they made new prints and spent some of this precious budget in areas that you will literally never see, yet won't give us details that they've literally given us in the past, in sets at lower price points too. Now this next point is something I want to discuss around LAN, which if you don't know stands for the LEGO Ambassador Network, and this is where popular LEGO influencers work with LEGO to be sent free sets ahead of time in exchange for making a piece of content with that set. Many people have received a new Death Star and either made a review or some form of video with it included, and have been getting an unprecedented amount of backlash. Now I first want to preface this by saying I'm not pointing out anyone in particular here, as I've personally interacted with so many people who are in the LEGO Ambassador Network. They're all really great people who just love LEGO like you and I, but as someone who watches a lot of LEGO reviews, my raw feelings are that I find it incredibly hard to believe that someone can recommend or not recommend whether a set is worth its price if they haven't actually paid that price for the set and received it completely for free. I do not want this to sound like I'm questioning anyone's integrity, as I know ambassadors are not required to say say a set is good. They can bag it as much as they like. Take Brick Fanatics have said the Death Star is really disappointing, or remember back to Solid Brick Studios tearing the Republic Juggernaut to shreds in his latest review. And we know that for the past few years, influencers have gotten sets for free. However, when you push that boundary out to over $1,000, it makes it harder to truly feel that burden of spending the retail price on a set and deciding whether to recommend it or not. The reason I watch a LEGO review is mainly to see whether a set is worth its price, so I should buy it. So when the reviewer hasn't actually forgone that amount of money, especially as we get into higher and higher price sets, it creates a really unique dilemma. Now, the biggest benefit of being in the LEGO Ambassador Network isn't actually receiving the sets for free, of course. What is more important is getting these sets a month in advance, where a set gets revealed and then sometimes as soon as the next day, ambassadors can post their content on it. This therefore means that the videos get more views, equaling more money for the creator, but also more exposure for LEGO, getting more people to see the set and buy it, so it's a partnership that works both ways. Again, as I said, this is not an attack on LEGO influencers in the Ambassador program. They're all really great people, and I've even seen people like Brickmaster Harry giving away a lot of the sets that he was given by LEGO, so that's just always such a great thing. However, there is one thing here that I heard going around in a few different reviews that I watched of the Death Star that I didn't really agree with, and I wanted to point them out. These are pertaining to the price of the Death Star and the GWP. To start with the GWP, I've seen videos discussing how if you buy the $1,000 Death Star on day one and get the GWP, you can sell that on eBay for $200 or some ridiculous amount of money in order to offset the cost of the Death Star. First, I want to say how incredibly dangerous that type of thinking is. You should never be buying a massive LEGO set expecting the GWP to go for hundreds of dollars, especially when it's a really terrible set like this one, which no one should realistically be buying. But secondly, that whole concept of the idea is really scary to me, where no one should feel like they're pressured to buy a set in the first few days so that they can sell the GWP to take a big dent out of that initial price. The other sentiment here is that the older LEGO Death Stars, especially the one from 2016, is worth like $1,300 or more in some cases. Therefore, when you technically think about it, the new set is $300 cheaper than that one, has way more pieces and way more minifigures. Again, like I said with selling the GWP, this is really dangerous thinking. A LEGO set should be judged on its own merit, regardless of older sets and their current market values. If we think like that, then everyone should be going out and buying this insanely overpriced Red Hulk set because that figure is worth so much. Or the Battle on Peridia should have been $100 because Thrawn is an expensive minifigure. And in the long run, thinking like that is only enabling LEGO to charge much higher prices, which no one should be happy about. So please let me know in the comments, do you agree with my points here? Do you disagree? Or even if anyone in the LEGO Ambassador Network watches this video, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.